So it's day 6. I'm feeling even better than I did yesterday. I'm still not sleeping the best, but my sleep patterns from work and my general life are somewhat disjointed anyway. So I guess I need to do a little bit of retraining to get some sort of normal sleep pattern happening. But apart from that, I'm starting to feel a little bit like my old self. So what I thought I'd talk to you about today is I thought I'd share with you a little bit of my thoughts when I started to search for information. So I've shared with you what it's like to actually have that realization that you've got a problem with alcohol. Now, when I had that realization, obviously, I then started looking around, looking at options of how do I deal with this. So you do the usual, you Google, you go and check out the internet, you talk to people on the phone, that sort of thing. And what I found was this sudden requirement for me to identify myself in a particular way. And it was quite overwhelming. The need for everybody else to put a label on what my problem was. If you Google this sort of stuff, if you dive into the internet and you start reading people's stories and you start reading the different websites dedicated to these subjects and reading the different recommendations for dealing with it, it's a pretty dark place. It gets you pretty depressed pretty quickly. And the overwhelming majority of information is directed at, I guess, the really hardcore, nearly cliched version of what everybody thinks an alcoholic is. And even when you talk to people with any experience in this, I talked to some really great people, but I had some interactions with some people that need you to identify as an alcoholic, and they're nearly disappointed that you're not on the brink of losing your business and your family, and it's not this cliche, your life is not this cliche disaster zone. So I first went looking for the label, for the box that I fitted into, and it took a bit of searching, and there's not that much information on it, but it seems the general diagnosis, if you will, is high-functioning alcoholic. Now, these are essentially people like myself who have a family, have a job, a business, social life, etc., etc. And if you look at my life from the outside, and if you don't follow me around and watch my individual particular behaviour, there's nothing wrong with my life. I'm not losing my family. I'm not abusing my partner and my kids. I'm keeping it together at work. I'm functioning well in society. I'm able to do everything that is required of me by the people around me, but I'm also utilising alcohol to fulfil all my obligations. So I'm not the cliche, and I'm sure that there's I know, because I know other people very similar to myself. But it's very hard to it's hard to find yourself in the information that's given. And I got quite frustrated trying to look for alternatives other than the alternatives for far heavier drinkers than myself. Now, obviously, when you're going through it yourself, it feels very dramatic, but I'm under no illusions that my problem, compared to many people, was very minor. Nevertheless, it was my problem, And so, my problem's my problem. I need to deal with it. Now, I'm a great believer in the maxim that you are what you think. I'm not actually a great believer in the whole positive thinking stuff. I find most people that, well, not most people, but I find a lot of people that carry on about positive thinking don't actually ever do anything. I far prefer positive action and let your positive thoughts catch up with the action. Nevertheless, to actually get yourself in action, you still require a thought. And that requires some sort of control. Now, if I was to label myself the way that it seems most of the experts and most of the literature and information want me to label myself, they want me to label myself as an alcoholic. Guess what? Fuck you. I'm not going to call myself an alcoholic. I'm not going to put myself in the position of telling myself that I'm something and then telling myself that I've got a disease. I don't have a disease. I don't believe alcoholism is a disease. It's not leprosy. It's not a disease. It's a symptom of a problem. But it's a symptom. It's not the problem. It's a symptom. And this is where I have a problem with nearly all the literature that I read. They firstly state the requirement is to admit you have a problem and label yourself as an alcoholic. You go to AA, they want me to stand up and say, hi, my name's Glenn and I'm an alcoholic. And you do that every day. I mean, if that's not a self-fulfilling prophecy, I'm not going to do it. So I'm not an alcoholic. I don't have a disease. My problem is a symptom of other problems that are fully within my control to change. I change those. I change the outcome. It's not a disease. I don't care what anybody says. It's not a disease. So, and I know that there's all this stuff also about it being genetic and all that sort of thing. Well, you know what? Watch me. Watch me. So, look, that's my experience. That's my problem with the whole world of alcohol abuse and alcoholism. That I see no benefit to anybody. No benefit to anybody. Well, I guess I need to put a disclaimer in here. These are all my opinions. I know that there's probably millions of people out there that disagree with me. That's okay. There are millions of people who disagree with me on lots of things. But this is the way I think. This is the way I'm choosing to deal with my problem. And I just don't understand why you would want to put yourself in a box. Why would you want to label yourself with something, essentially giving yourself a lifetime sentence of identifying yourself as a problem? I mean, it just beggars belief, honestly. It really does. So this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because essentially every other road, generally, you've got to pay somebody else a lot of money to fix your problem. And I'm not knocking any of it. It's, if that's what you need to do, if you need, God, there were so many different things. You need to go to rehab, or you need hypnosis, or AA, or any of that stuff, and that works for you, that's fabulous. But, I've changed my life before. I've changed myself before. I can do it again. And all it takes is getting myself into action. I don't need to have I don't need to see how I'm going to get somewhere all the time. You just need to get into action. You need to just say, this is the outcome that I want. That's the road I want to travel down. I'm not sure exactly all the steps involved, but if I take the first couple, then it gets me down the road and it'll start to open up. Now, I don't think I have, massively, unusually strong willpower or anything like that. I just have the knowledge of what I'm capable of and what I want. Everything's very simple if you break it down. It's all very simple. And I've got massive motivation. So that's it. Yeah. So that's my rave. I'm not an alcoholic. I don't have a disease. And this was just a symptom of many things that were unbalanced in my life. Now, getting rid of the actual physical part of my problem, as I said in another video, was the easiest bit. I'm now going to cleanse my body. And I'm 42 years old, so I'm choosing to cleanse my body in a profound manner, which has other elements other than the physical. It has mental and spiritual aspects to it. And as I go along that road, I'm going to start to change other parts of my behaviour. And as I change all of this, my entire aspect on life and my entire outlook and my entire self will change and evolve. And I can do all this without calling myself, an alcoholic, because I'm not.